This podcast, The Good, the Bad and the Vagina, is brought to you by me, Tess Lovely, a retired midwife, birth keeper, mother and sovereign woman. The views shared are my own and those of my guests. If something doesn't resonate, release it. It's not meant to upset or offend. If you feel discomfort, please seek support for your own healing. If you don't like what you hear, don't listen. This space honours truth, freedom and expression, protected under the rights to free speech. Welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Vagina. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Vagina. It is my youngest daughter's birthday today, Honey, and I went for a swim this morning, and whilst I was going for a swim, I was having deep thoughts about her birth and her journey of life and things like that. And the one thing that I have been very aware of is that I don't talk a huge amount about her birth. And it made me then inquire, why is that? Why do I not? I mean, she's 18 years old. Honey is an incredible, phenomenal woman. She is kind and sensitive and gentle, so gentle, and just got a really beautiful big heart. And her understanding of the world is incredible. I use that word a lot, but it is absolutely amazing. Her thought processes on how she assesses the world and the things that go on in the world around her are just amazing, and such a beautiful, lovely soul. And so it made me wonder why I don't talk about her birth that much. So I then swimming out in the sea, in the freezing cold sea, on the 3rd of December, made me think, what is it that I don't talk? So my then thought processes was, come and do a small podcast on her birth. Don't have any plan on what it will be like. Just come and sit and do a 15-minute little podcast on her pregnancy journey and where you were in your world, and then her birth. So I was in a really happy space in my world when I fell pregnant with Honey. I was an independent midwife, which I was loving. I was also a Sure Start midwife. I had stepped out of the NHS in terms of me working as a community midwife because we'd got a new head of midwifery, and the head of midwifery that I'd had previously was so supportive and so proactive for women's choice, supporting women. And she just loved me. Sue Cole, her name was. She was amazing head of midwifery. She supported midwives wanting to provide woman-focused care. We did something called Domino Service, which was brilliant, where women just phoned you, you went and assessed them at home, and they made their choices and decisions then as to whether or not they were going to have their baby at home or go into hospital. And if they decided that hospital was where they felt safest to go, you would then go with them and support them having their baby in the hospital. It was incredible. And she was really flexible about how the on-calls worked. So if you were on call for your women, you could just ring and say, I'm going out to Mrs. So-and-so's birth, and it would all just be supported and facilitated for you to do that. The criteria and basis on that was that you had to cover your clinics or your workload that you had. Say, for example, I had a clinic the next morning. If I had managed to get cover for that clinic, then I would be free to go and do the on-call for that woman, or I would be free to go to her birth. If I couldn't cover the clinic, though, then I would have to decline being able to go and support the woman, or use my own professional, personal, knowledgeable judgment as to whether or not I would be fit to be able to stay up, say, half the night and then go and do the clinic the following morning. It was so flexible, the way that we worked. It really was what I would call true midwifery care. And I met some beautiful women and had some of the most amazing birth stories and experiences. And so the head of midwifery, Sue Cole, had gone, actually, interestingly, to work at the NMC to work around retention, because she retained, surprisingly, a lot of midwives. So I was a community midwife. I did go into hospital and help women have babies in hospital, but predominantly I did home births. I ran my clinic. I saw all my own women antenatally and postnatally. For example, a woman had called me and I was going to a home birth and I couldn't make her postnatal visit at that moment. Could ring her and say, look, I can't come now. Do you need a visit? I could make a professional assessment. And if she said, no, I'll be okay, I could go and do the home birth and then go and visit her later. If she felt that she needed an appointment urgently, I could call on one of my colleagues to come and go and see her. We were just more flexible. We just worked more cohesively together. It was beautiful way to work. It was true midwifery and I loved it. But when Sue Cole left as the head of midwifery, I knew I wouldn't be able to be doing practice in the way that I was. The head of midwifery that came in made that extremely clear. And interestingly, not only did I leave to be an independent midwife, I think at that point there were 7 of us within our team that just went, Mark, we're leaving. And we all went off and became independent midwives. Because of my moral compass wanting that sort of facility available for all women, I also applied for a part-time job as a Sure Start midwife in Northampton. And it was a brilliant job. I loved that. It was only part-time. I only did 22 hours, but I held a teenage group. I ran a breastfeeding support group that ran alongside my clinic. I went to lots of families that maybe were less financially as fortunate as some of the other families that I was working with as an independent midwife. I did education classes there. We targeted quite a lot. We had quite a big ethnic group within our area. So we had like a Bangladeshi group that came and they did food education, but also as well as a community, they could have parent education that was based more around their needs for their community beliefs. It was phenomenal. So I was in a really happy space when I fell pregnant with Honey. It was just lovely. One of the things that really struck me though in that pregnancy, so I never really ate sweets before then, but when I was pregnant with Honey, I could not eat enough of fruit and nut. I know, I know. And I would be advocating to all these women about eating really healthy. And I think it's because she's such sweet natured. She triggered a sweet tooth in me. But I loved being pregnant with her. I just bloomed. I worked up until I was about 36, 37 weeks. The only thing that was a bit questionable about in and around my birth was that I was 40. I think Louis was 13 when I fell pregnant with Honey. So there'd been a bit of a gap. And also, Amber, Jasmine, and Louis' dad is different from Honey and Rio's dad. Jai, my husband now, was his first baby and obviously my 4th baby. The pregnancy was fine. It went really well. I grew really well. I think I probably put on a bit more weight in her pregnancy than I did in any of the other pregnancies, but I was really happy. And then I gave at work and went on maternity leave. And it was just, yeah, I just loved it. I was walking the dog every day and looking at the change in leaves in the autumn and just really loved that transitional part of moving into that new birthing baby stage again in my life. And then surprisingly, I think she was quite overdue. I think she was like 2.5 weeks overdue, maybe nearly 3 weeks overdue, and my waters broke. Nice and clear fluid. And the policy or guideline, not even I'm saying the bloody word policy now, and it really infuriates me. The guideline at the time was for women to have a swab if they so wish to, and to be induced within 48 hours. I didn't particularly want either of those, so I didn't tell anybody that my waters are broken and just kind of winged it a little bit. Some people will say that's because of the knowledge that you have, but when you're pregnant as a midwife, honestly, you are literally a pregnant woman. You forget everything, apart from all the fear things, because fear is quite a big thing. And in my classes, I talk a lot about the impact that fear has on us in our birthing arena and our pregnancy and the relationship that it has with our babies. So I didn't tell anybody, and we got to kind of day 5 after my waters broke. I started contracting. Now, the one thing I do know when your waters break, and I've spoken to this a lot about women, is that when your waters break, for 75% of women, they will go into spontaneous labour. But your water's breaking is not a sign of labour starting. It's more often a sign that the baby's probably not in the best position. And if your labour then doesn't start, then obviously that's quite an indication that the baby isn't in the right position. And as I said, when you are a midwife and you are pregnant, you become a pregnant woman. You forget all the stuff that I'd been teaching women about optimum fetal positioning and all of that stuff, poof, went out of my head. The only thing that I did kind of hold on to was about trusting my instincts and doing what felt right for me, which was I didn't want to have my labour induced, didn't want to have it augmented, and baby was moving fine, and the water was still clear, and I didn't feel unwell. So I had lots of reassuring factors around me, not eh, wanting to go and have my labour augmented or anything. And if there had been any signs, my instinct, I would have gone, right, I need to do this. I had a conversation at one point, I think it was 3 days after my waters had broken. Jai, my husband, said, I hope you don't go into labour on the day that I'm on call, because I'm on call on Friday night. And I was, in the back of my head, I thought, I bet that's the day I go into labour. Anyway, sure enough, it was. I'd got my birthing pool at home and I started my labour, and yeah, things started to heat up pretty quickly, and I was feeling really great, except Jai kept answering the phone and it was really interfering. It wasn't a thing that he did on purpose. He was on call. I knew he was on call, but it was irritating, and it was irritating me. Anyway, my beautiful, beautiful little birthing angels came in the shape and the form of Julia Bennett, who, as you know, has been my lifelong guardian on my birthing journey. She came with another midwife, and then I started getting these urges to push, and I had quite a lot of backache throughout the labour anyway, and there was the doubling of the contractions. So there was lots of signs at that point that baby wasn't in the sort of the best position. But then I felt fine. I felt absolutely fine. The only thing that I found really difficult was that my husband kept having to answer the phone because he was on call. And I can remember saying to him at one point, go and take that call in the other room. Anyway, this labour was dragging out. For a fourth baby, you'd have thought I'd have just coughed and spluttered and it was out. And the backache was immense. And I think after doing this, really feeling this urge and this wanting to push, it's quite an uncontrollable urge to push, but it wasn't my usual feeling of wanting to push, which is like a deeper down level of pushing. This was definitely, I would call it a constipated push. That's what it felt like. Sometimes when you're constipated and you're pushing and you're just like not getting it, it felt like that. That is exactly how it felt now I'm thinking about it. So then the phone rang again, and I think I just lost the plot, and I just made a snap decision in my head I'm not going to have this baby in this house because he keeps answering the phone and that's putting me off, and I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm not feeling safe. And I just said to Julia, we need to go in. We need to go into hospital. I don't think I'm getting anywhere. I think she might have offered to examine me, and I was like 5 centimetres or something. But 5 centimetres doesn't mean nothing. For me at this point, I'm thinking we've definitely got a baby not in a great position. You've got all this backache. You've got this early onset feeling of pushing. It's shit. It really is shit, and it's not working. And you've got this interference thing going on. This isn't the safe place to have your baby. And so I did. I went into hospital, and I went in and I met the glorious Marge. What a beautiful woman. This was the start of our birthing journey together. I hadn't been that long working at Northampton. I did forget to tell you that when I became pregnant with Honey, I had made a decision that I couldn't continue being an independent midwife, and I was going to go and work full time as a labour ward coordinator. This is my first real encounter of coming in to the hospital per se to meet all these lovely midwives. So I came in pushing on a cervix that wasn't dilated and just generally being a little bit aggy. And the plan was, let's get an epidural on board. And literally, they went to put the epidural in, and suddenly I was having a baby, which is quite normal, I have to say. Part of all the things when I think back now and reflective of all of this process is her waters are gone. She probably wasn't in a good position. early onset feeling of pushing that feels like constipated pushing. She probably wasn't in a good position. Disturbance from the phone keep ringing. It didn't help my little mindset of being able to relax to enable her to rotate into a better position, despite my body doing everything that it needed to do to encourage that. I was tense. So I was inhibiting my own body because of this irritation that was going on around me. But because I then made a decision internally to go to the hospital and to find a safer space to birth, the jigging of the ambulance ride, the getting there, the plan to come up with, the decision to take the pressure off from the pushing, the positioning that you have to sit in to get an epidural put in place, sitting on the head. It's no wonder as soon as they started, I just went, I think I need to have a baby. And there we go. And it was so funny because I transferred in probably about 5:30. I made the decision in the morning to go into hospital. And Marge finished duty at 7ish. So I can remember this whole plethora of stuff that was needing to be done, and me being that woman that bursts just as somebody's about to finish duty. How annoying is that for them? But do you know what? How many times that happens to so many midwives? But we never care. We just carry on and do everything that we need to do to make that whole birth experience feel complete. And that is exactly what Marge did for me. So because of all the hoo-ha around the length of the waters breaking and the pushing on the baby and da-da-da-da, I think I had the injection for symptometrin. It wasn't something that I particularly remember. I was probably asked, but I probably was in a space and a place that I didn't give a shit and probably went, yeah, give it to me. Anyway, Honey was born and she weighed 10 pounds. I know, 10 pounds. Born very quickly once she got into a really good position. Born so beautifully, so quickly. She came up onto me with this like mass of hair, like this long black hair. I was just like looking at this baby and I looked at my husband Jai and it was beautiful. And she just sat here and it was just awesome. And then Debbie Bedford, who was my student when I was at Milton Keynes, who was then working at Northampton Hospital, she came in and took over from Marge. Oh my God, it was so beautiful just to kind of see this incredible midwife in front of me who had been my student and was like, just do whatever you want to do, Tess. And I was like, yes, I taught her well. A lot of that was her own stuff. She didn't need teaching from me. It was in her core. It was in her blood, just like it was in Marge's blood, just like it's in Julia Bennett's blood. It's in their blood, that trusting, believing in women. So anyway, had Honey about an hour after I had her. I thought everybody had gone out and I was just having this really beautiful moment with her, looking down at her and loving her and holding her. And I just thought, I need to put her down. I didn't feel particularly great. And I don't know what was the matter. I was feeling hot and sweaty. So I put her on the bed next to me and I thought, I think I'm going to be sick. And I remember going like this to get a sick bowl. There wasn't one. And then I remember looking at this direction to get a sick bowl. And I have to confess, I just vomited all over Honey. It was uncontrollable. It was like a devil was evacuating out of my body. And I think it came with such force. I think it was the symptometrin. I think it was my reaction to the symptometrin because I hadn't had it before. And so I don't, it was massive. And just at that point, Debbie came in, and true to form with Debbie, because we had that sort of beautiful relationship, she laughed and I laughed, and I was like, oh my God, how awful is that? As a mum, I've just vomited on my baby. And she went, what happens in the room stays in the room, apart from now, and obviously it's going to go out nationwide. So maybe that was the reason why I haven't really shared her birth. Maybe it was in a deep subconscious place in the back of me that I had made the pact that what went on in that room stayed in the room. Well, here I am today, revealing all and declaring all. Debbie beautifully, swiftly, tenderly, kindly, amazingly cleaned up Honey and cleaned my bed, did all my paperwork and let me go home like within an hour or so. It was, you need to go. This isn't your place. You don't look comfortable. And it wasn't my place. But what the whole experience did to teach me was about trusting your instinct, about women trusting their instincts. And at that time, when I had made the choice and decision to transfer into the hospital, I didn't know what was the reason for that. I know now it's that I wasn't feeling safe where I was, not necessarily in terms of how the labour was progressing, but just in the fact that the interference, because I knew once we got into hospital that Jai would say the on-call would end. He would be able to hand over the phone because suddenly he's in a different environment. Everybody understands when you're in hospital that you don't answer your phone. So yeah, that was my birthing journey with Honey. And after I had her, I was blessed again with the transition into motherhood, because obviously it'd been some considerable time since I had a baby, but actually she made that journey really easy. She made breastfeeding really easy. She was such a quiet, gentle, loving little soul, and still is. And it was just a massive reflection on who she is and who she has become as a woman today. That was my journey, the pregnancy that I didn't talk about. And now I understand why. And it was her turning 18, my swim in the sea, her birthday celebrations this morning, all of those things have enabled me to open up and share this birth experience with you today, reflecting on some of the reasons why I may not have shared that story before. Is a little bit of ego in there about me having to do it all right because I know all this information. And actually, I hadn't had that conversation with myself, the conversation that I have with so many women, where I say there is no right or wrong way of giving birth. There is just giving birth. And so long as you are making all the right choices that you're happy with and you're feeling heard and listened to, that's the most important thing. And I can't thank Julia and Marge enough, and Debbie and Amanda, I think, was the other midwife that came as a second midwife when I was at home. All of those midwives listened to me. None of them said, Tess, are you sure you don't want to go into hospital? Like, Julia never, ever questioned me. She said, is it the right thing? Is it what you're feeling is the right thing? And I went, it absolutely is. And I couldn't even pinpoint at that point why I wanted to go into hospital. But now, 18 years later, and I can reflect on this and go, it's because I wasn't feeling safe where I was. And I listened to my instinct. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that. And I'm so proud of her birthing journey because it taught me so much on how to be loving and compassionate and understanding with women about their journeys of transferring into hospital, having planned a home birth. And even though I wasn't consciously aware of how hugely it helped me in my future practice with women, about saying it's not about planning a home birth. It's about saying I'm going to start off at home and see how my birth goes. And then I'm going to make my choices and decisions along on that journey according to my needs at that time. And I absolutely lived by that. Absolutely, I lived by that. And I never, ever really recognised how much I honoured that until today, on Honey's 18th birthday. I've been saying to women, if you choose to go into hospital during your birth process, it's not a failing, it's a success, because it shows that you are listening to yourself. And it's a success because it shows that those who are around you are listening to you. And it's a success because then you're in a place where you do feel safer. I never judge where women have a baby. I don't care where you have your baby. I think if you want to swing from a chandelier, if that's what's feeling right for you, that's what we should be supporting and facilitating. So yeah, that came out of nowhere. I am so happy to have shared that story with you. Maybe this is the reason why I haven't discussed it, but I will be talking, I think, on all of my children's birthdays. I think I will talk about their birth and about their pregnancy journeys and what I learned as a woman, as a midwife, as a mother on each of those journeys. I know when I got home, having had honey, and I was greeted by my older children, it was such a nice experience to come in with their new sibling. They just loved and adored her. She was a cute little baby. She is the most divine young woman. She really is. And I have been so blessed and honoured to have gifted her on my life journey. All of my children have been a gift to me. I'm so happy and just so in love with the fact that I shared this story with you. It's really, really empowered me to remind me that I have been speaking the truth and from my heart, supporting women on their birthing journeys, that I totally hold and get that space where they sit. And I would never have been able to do any of those journeys that I've had without the support and the love of the midwives that I had, Julia Bennett in particular, who so nurtured me on my journeys. I met her at the end of Jasmine's pregnancy, and then she has been there with me through the highs and lows of so much, not only on my birthing journeys, but my midwifery journey. I'm in awe of the jobs that midwives do. I'm heartbroken. I'm not going to lie, I am a little bit heartbroken that I've stepped away from the midwifery arena and retired because it doesn't resonate with my core values now, what midwifery represents. It is, for me, it's more obstetric nursing. It's more about ticking the boxes. My birth journeys and my midwifery experience when I shared women's birthing journeys is, for me, a true reflection of what birthing and midwifery is all about. Being with the woman, holding that space, loving them, nurturing them. And unfortunately, the system now in place is very different, very much more obstetric nursing, very much more around checking blood pressures and identifying things that deviate away from normal, which, yes, is really, really important. But actually preventing those things, i.e. talking a lot and educating women about good diets, their emotional well-being, their psychological well-being, what's their environment like, are they spiritually connected with anything, is their religion supporting them in their belief systems, this whole package. And it's become a little bit more 3D in the way that care provision is. The fact that they give 20-minute appointments and then you're meant to be on to the next one, and yet there's so much more information to be giving women now because women want more information. So I know what I offer as a birth guardian, a birth keeper, a birth educator, a birth coach, a doula, whatever you want to call me. I know that what I offer is that real in-depth, loving information that's just going to enhance your journey. And I'm here to help support you along on your journey and hold space and empower you. And I know that all of my birthing experiences have just so enhanced my knowledge and understanding and my knowing of birthing. I wouldn't say I know it all because I don't. I don't know everything. The older I've got, the more I've realised the less I know. And when I was young, I thought I knew everything. And I know that when you're a mum of teenagers, you understand because they think they know everything. But when you get older, you suddenly realise that actually what you know is just a tiny amount in terms of the information that's out there. But what you do know is where your answers are, and they are in your heart, they're inside. That's why you need to birth from within. You need to live from within. As the saying goes, as above, so below, as within, so without. And on that note, I'm going to end this beautiful little session. I'm so delighted to have shared this journey with you. It has really, really made my day. It's really brought a beautiful aspect to Honey's coming of age of 18, turning into a young woman. And I am so thankful and grateful for having been blessed with such a delightful human to be a guardian over and to give her the roots to feel loved and secure and wholesome, but also the wings to go and fly and live her life in the greatest possible way that she can. So, with the biggest biggest loves and hugs to Honey. Happy birthday. Thank you for coming in and showing me so much about myself and about life. And thanks, listeners. Thanks for sharing this little emotional journey with me today. I really hope you can feel what I feel. I hope I'm able to get those emotions out to you, because it is just pure joy, pure love, pure delight. I look forward to the next episode. I've got Caroline Spear's final episode that I'm just about to release, because that came in 2 parts. I've got the Summer Sisters coming up. They're fabulous. I've also done a podcast with Claire Horn, who is the Atonic menopausal queen, and she's talking about small changes having big impacts. And I've got some incredible guests lined up. So I'm loving this little journey of the women's birthing experience. And I hope that the information and the knowledge and my views and my thoughts are landing well with you all and enhancing your understanding. And remember, if there's anything that I say that you're not in alignment with, it's okay. Don't take it on board. It's just my conversations. It's just who I am. I'm just being my true, authentic self. And it's so nice to be able to step back into my own authenticity, having left a system that was trying to really squash it out of me. I am loving this. So, yeah, let's get back into our power, beautiful ladies. Let's birth from within. Let's go forth. Big love to you all.